Welcome back, guys. I'm going to show you a little bit about how to use a wall wart, W-A-R-T, wall wart, which basically converts from the wall power, which is AC. You can see this is coming in from an extension cord because I'm working on my messy desk. I've got this wall wart. This is, I think, a 12 volt DC, so it's going to convert the AC that coming from the line voltage or from my wall outlet, and it'll produce a DC voltage. That DC voltage will come out on this plug right here. You've probably seen something like this in a lot of different applications. These plugs are called 2.1 millimeter plugs because guess what? The diameter is 2.1 millimeters. So let's show you. Let's take a look at how we do this. The first thing is, in order to hook one of these up, I have to figure out when I look at this this plug, is the plus side, or is that on the inner connector, or is it on the outer connector, and which side is ground? So I have to do that, and the way to do that, of course, is with our multimeter. So what I have it set on is DC volts, and I've got it on the 20 volt setting. So you guys have done this many times, and so I've just got that set on DC volts, just like usual. I've got my two leads. One's ground and one's the DC volts. So you guys know the red and black leads before. And what I'll do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to connect it to my, with that plugged in, I'm going to take it and I'm going to connect the ends of my wall wart. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my red lead on the inside, and then I'll put my ground lead on the outside, and let's take a look at the reading that we get. So when I'm doing that, you see that I get about 12.05 volts. And because it's plus, I know that the ground must be where the black lead is touching, and that the red lead must be the inside. If I had done it the other way first, and I've got my ground lead of my multimeter inside, and I touch the outside, you'll notice you get a minus 12 volts, and so that would tell me that my polarity was backwards. So I now know that the outside must be the ground and the inside must be the positive voltage. So then I've got to think, well, how do I get this onto a breadboard that I can use? And the way to do that, of course, is to take this connector and connect it to one that'll actually allow you to get onto a breadboard. And one way to do this is with a little jack like I have here in my hand. This one will plug in, and again, if I check this, there are three leads that come out. One of them is on this far end outside here, and then there's one right underneath here, and then there's one on the side. The one on the side doesn't do anything. So my plus is going to be on this side, and then the minus, the ground, will be down underneath. And I'm hoping you can see that okay. It's a little bit small. So when I put this in the board, I've got to set it in there sort of like this. And when I do that, let me get you sort of a close-up on that. When I do that, you can see it sitting down in the board, and I'll double check that. This pin right here, this row right here, let me make sure the camera's there. These pins right here are going to be the plus 12 in this case. If you had a 9 volt wall, it would be 9 volts. This doesn't do anything because it's just that side connector. And then the ground will actually be underneath here on this row right here. Hopefully you can see my pin. So there will be the ground. This does nothing, and then my plus will be on this far right side. So what I would do then is connect that up to my rails, for example. And so let me show you real quick how to do that. I just take two wires. One would be a little red wire, and I would jump that up to the top rail, for example, just like this. And so that's going to connect up to the plus rail up on top. So hopefully you can see that I've used that row that's on that far edge. And then we would also need to run a ground to the lower rail. So I would take another little piece of wire, probably green or maybe black, and let me trim that real quickly. So I'll connect that down like this. So that's going to go from here down to that bottom rail, and then I'll show you close up on that one. So let me straighten up that wire. Oh, it broke. So that's not supposed to happen, but sometimes it does. So let me fix it. So my positive lead broke, and now I think I've got it set though. Let me give you a close up on it. So you can see, I think, that my positive goes up toward that top rail with the red wire coming from here. You can see where that wire broke there. And then this doesn't connect anything, and then this other, I've skipped one, and now that jumps down and forms a ground rail down on the bottom. So that would give me about 12 volts across those rails, and that would be a good connection. Well, that's great if you want to have it on a breadboard, but sometimes we want to actually have it maybe in the side of a box, and we would call that a panel mount connection. So let me show you a different way to do this. This little connector here is also a 2.1 millimeter jack, and let me show you from the side. So I'll kind of rotate that. You'll see that there are leads coming off the bottom here. And what's neat about this is that it can actually connect into the side of a box. So this would be outside. This would come through the box, and then you would thread this down after you drill a hole, and then these leads would be on the inside of the box. So the wall of the box would be right where my pen is. And so these are called bulkhead or panel mount connectors. And what I've done is I've made tests kind of like I did before with the multimeter, and I now know, for example, that this connector right here is the +9, and I also know then that this one's ground. And I did that not by looking it up, I did that with my multimeter. So when I put the black lead of the multimeter and the red lead here, I was able to get a +12 volts out of that. So what I would do then is solder up these connectors. I've got my soldering iron here ready to go, so I'm going to go ahead and solder those leads on. I think I let my soldering iron get a little bit cooled off, so let me see if this works here. And it's not. So, but what I would do is go ahead and solder that on there. And maybe I'll come back and do that, or maybe you can imagine we've already done some soldering. So I would solder a red lead here, and then I would solder my black lead onto the other side, or a green onto the other side. So that would then give me good power. And then if I came along, then I would just plug my wall wart in here like this. And so that would connect kind of like the other one did. So that's another way to connect power up. That gives you the option of bringing the wires out onto a circuit as opposed to having it on a breadboard. So let me see if this is heated up, and I'll go ahead and make that solder joint now. By the way, the thing that I'm using to hold this, these little kind of clips are called helping hands. I really don't like using them, but I know some of the students like them, so I decided to go ahead and use them. And let me go ahead and stop that. I'm going to instead of letting that take so much time. So I appreciate you looking at that. And so wall warts are a good way to go with getting good power onto a breadboard. Thank you.